probably the best player in the state of Kentucky, the Bluegrass State, which you know quite well. So at the offensive tackle position, another really good one here.
Jarvis Strickland is a name that when you're talking about offensive tackles across the board in 2026, there's so many programs that have been interested from him. He's originally from Chattanooga and then moved over to Kentucky, bought Paducah Tillman. This is just a kid that, just oozes with physicality. He could play, so he's another kid much like Kennedy Brown that's extremely versatile, 6'6", 290, but it'll be interesting to see where he lands. We got to talk to Strickland a little bit yesterday, kind of where his recruitment is, and it looks like he's going to announce his recruitment decision, his commitment this coming Saturday. He does have two visits set to Vanderbilt and Kentucky. Kentucky has made a push for Jarvis Strickland from the jump. He's really built a strong relationship. Coach Vince Morrow, he kind of shared about how that's not only a coach that he's been able to build a recruiting relationship with, but he knows off the field if he needs someone. That's, Coach Morrow is someone who's been a staple in Kentucky football, but there's someone he can lean on. He said that he's looking for somewhere that he really feels like home and is comfortable with, and his environment that will continue to push and develop his ability. On a personal note, he kind of shared that Kentucky seems to be the place that his mama feels where, she can trust the staff if she leaves him to grow him, nurture him, and so many of those things that we look outside of football. So again, the number one player in the Bluegrass, Jarvis Strickland, looking to make a commitment here. In the next couple of days, it really does look, I know that some crystal balls have him going to Vandy. I won't call it yet, but just kind of what my gut tells me, the relationship, I feel like Kentucky really does have the edge, and again, we talk about a fit and we talk about instant impact players. Kentucky is one of those programs that is yet to have a commitment in 2026. They are also the only SEC program currently that doesn't have a commit in 2026. So if they were going to make a splash, it definitely could be on Saturday if they're able to land Jarvis Strickland, which I just feel, they've been looking to rebuild their offensive line, Mark, and it's no question that Strickland is going to bring versatility. Like I said, he carries his weight so well when you see him. He could play, I think he could eventually move into that interior lineman. Again, this is a kid who excels as a tackle. He's just got this crazy, nasty disposition that you want to have an offensive lineman. But again, he could easily transition to center and to guard. And I think he would just be a valuable asset to whatever program. But in particular, I think that he would be a big instant impact player down in Lexington for that 2026 class. We know Mark Stoops and his staff offensively have gone to the portal, this past go to get a few offensive linemen to really rebuild that line, that game in the trenches for the Cats. And they've also have some promising 2025 class. But as we've seen, Mark, just the commodity, the value of having a good offensive and defense front have just become so much more crucial, especially in the SEC conference, as the play gets more difficult, as it gets more, engrossing in those trenches. You've got to have strong depth. I know that we talk about depth, plenty other positions, and it goes on for days, but rarely do we find programs that really are set when it comes to depth of having a strong offensive and defensive, depth. So Kentucky definitely looking and hoping that they're not only going to get their first commit, later this week in Jarvis Strickland, but again, not hanging alone in the SEC and finally winning one in that 2026 recruiting trail. But again, I don't think it would be any better than getting the number one state player in the state of Kentucky to come home to Lexington. So it'll be an interesting take. But again, another dynamic player, ton of upside that I think really will be a nice fit if he does commit to the Wildcats on Saturday.
When they get that offensive line where they want it to be at Kentucky, they, of course, call it the Big Blue Wall, and it has not been the Big Blue Wall for the last couple of years with a lot of cracks and pretty fragile up front. So Mark Stoops trying to get back to what that Kentucky run game and the offensive front looked like when they were churning out 10-3 type seasons and not 4-8 kind of seasons when they were at their peak under Stoops 4 or 5 years ago, and Jarvis Strickland would be a major step in that direction.